Yeah. Have you done the intro? How's everybody doing today? How many people do we have online actually? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. So I've already been introduced, and Sam has introduced me already. Am I right? I don't need any further introduction, do I? Okay. So Luke is the name. I work for a company called Right at Home Realty as a realtor. I'm also a mortgage agent. I've been in the business for quite some time. And we basically work with first-time home buyers as well as investors. And I'm happy to be here to help you guys, give you a little idea of how these things work. And if you have any questions, I'm more than glad to help you out. Okay, so I guess we're going to be talking about first-time home buyers as well as investors. Um, the first step is obviously you got to ask yourself, are you ready? How do you know that you're ready? You're ready if you have a few of these things in place. If you live in Canada right now, you have to be legally, you have to be a Canadian citizen, a landed immigrant, or a refugee to be eligible to purchase a property, especially if you need a mortgage. Obviously, if you don't live in Canada right now, you can still invest in Canada from overseas. That's a different story altogether. We can talk about that some other time. The first step, obviously, is the credit history. You have to have a good credit. What is a good credit score? A good credit score is anything over 680 for most lenders. If you want to get good mortgage interest rate, you have to be at 680 plus. Now, credit score is one thing, but the strength of your credit is another, right? So you may just have a $300 credit card, and you've had it for 3 months, but your credit score is 700. That's not a good credit. A good credit is a credit that has a few lines on it, a couple of credit cards, car payments with high balance. Obviously, if you have a $3,000 credit card versus $1,000 credit card, as long as you're making the payments on time, that's a good credit, strength and credit. Okay. The second, obviously, is going to be employment. The bank would like to know um, how much income you earn a year. That's very important. So you have good credit, you have good employment. Those are two good steps. Now, for self-employed individuals, I get calls sometimes from people who are self-employed. They're asking, okay, well, how do I qualify for a mortgage? My income is not steady. It's good news. Good news is that there are some lenders out there who would obviously give you loan for mortgage. If you're self-employed, it's 90% loan to value, meaning that you have to come up with your 10% down. And this program is called a stated income. So your gross income for the year is what they're going to use. Let's say you make 100,000 a year as a self-employed, and typically you write off 70,000, only show 30,000. It doesn't matter. They would use the whole gross income to qualify you for the mortgage, which is called business for self income. If you're on commission basis, you might not qualify for this. Okay. The next step obviously is down payment. Do you have a down payment? If you don't have a down payment, that's another problem. There are so many ways you can get down payments. You can get down payment from a gift. It could be a gift from a family member. It could be money that you saved on your own over time. I recall somebody asking me a question the other day: can I use a line of credit to put down as a down payment for a first home? The answer to that is no. Banks want to see that you have your own money, not a borrowed money. Again, if it is money that is given to you as a gift, that you don't have to pay it back, that's a different story altogether. Okay, so let's go back to what you need to do to qualify to own a home. First, you have to be legally staying in Canada, citizen, landed, a refugee. If you're foreign who doesn't live here, then you can still qualify to get a mortgage with 35% down as a foreigner. Secondly, you have to have good credit. A good credit score is credit score with 680 plus. Thirdly, you have to have good employment income. Okay, the higher the income you make, the better. If you're self-employed, we have a program called Stated Income Program, where you can qualify for a mortgage based on your gross income with 10% down. Okay. Now, fourthly, you have to have a down payment. If you don't have a down payment, the bank will not give you a mortgage. For first-time home buyers, you can actually qualify with as low as 5%. And also, if you qualify for the first-time home buyer incentive, you might get the additional 5% from CMHC to help you, put a larger down payment. All right. Now, going to the investment side, there are different types of real estate investments. For those who are interested in investing in real estate, there is one called REIT, which is Real Estate Investment Trust. Again, it's a real estate investment trust. This is basically where there's companies that invest in real estate. They generate income that way. You invest in them, and basically you receive income from the income they receive from the investments they have. You don't have to see an actual property. There's no physical property for you to invest in. You invest in a company. That's one aspect of real estate investment. Another one is syndicated mortgages. Syndicated mortgages is very similar to REIT. Again, you invest in new builds through a corporation, and when the products are completed, you get to benefit from the increase in value and the equity. Sometimes also you can benefit from the mortgages that are being given out to all the people, the interest rates on it. You make money that way. But I'm pretty sure everybody here is more interested in investing in physical properties they can touch and feel. And that's something that I'm doing personally. I've done for quite some time, and a lot of my clients have done, are still doing. There's a short-term investment, which is an investment under 10 years in real estate. And it's long-term, 10 years plus. So short-term is basically a situation where you buy a condo or a house, you fix it up nicely, and then you flip it and make some money right away. Other options are to buy pre-construction homes or condos. Some of these buildings are sold at a discount when you buy them from the builder, and then wait until the project is completed. When it's ready to be possessed, you take possession and you sell and make money. Those are short-term opportunities. Or you can buy a place like that and rent it out for a couple of years or 3 years, watch the equity grow, and then after 3 or 4 years, you sell it and make your money. Those are short-term ways of investing in real estate. Um, Another option is a long-term. Long-term, you can do a combination of both. You can do a combination of short-term and long-term. Long-term is where you hang on to that product for quite some time. You buy a property, you put tenants in there, they pay the mortgage for you by paying rent. And after a few years, sometimes 10, 15, 20 years, the mortgage is paid off by the tenants, and the equity has grown tremendously. And then you can sell that property in 10, 20 years and use that as a retirement plan. So right now, I personally do have a combination of both. I have short-term investments that I do in real estate and long-term. So what I recommend for anyone looking to do this business, if you're starting out, I would recommend going in short-term so you can accumulate enough cash to be able to more properties in the future for long-term. Okay. Okay. Any questions in the meantime? Okay. So let's go back to the types of properties you can actually invest in. Okay. The residential and commercial. Under residential, there are condos, townhouses, there are semis and detached homes. I typically personally do invest in condos and townhouses because of the fact that they are a little cheaper and the value go up much quicker than detached homes. Okay. So that's where I do my investments. Also, you can invest in commercial. Commercial involve things like offices, warehouses, hospitals, and all those businesses and stuff like that. You can invest in businesses, gas stations, convenience stores. You can also invest in land. This is one area that I just started exploring right now, buying land and hanging on to them for a little bit and long term, maybe a couple of years, 3 years, short term, or long term, 10, 20 years, we don't know, but I'm just starting out in the land now. Also, Airbnb has become very popular lately. A lot of my clients who buy condos downtown Toronto, they don't buy it to live in it. They don't buy it to sell it right away. They don't buy it to put a tenant in there. They buy it to rent it out for Airbnb, collecting $200, $300, $400 a night. 10 days of staying in your Airbnb can pay off the whole mortgage for the whole month, which is again another way of investing. I do have a mentorship program that I'm running with my team, where we take on a group of people, meet with them once a month, show them, teach them, guide them, take them by the hand, and show them how the business works, and buy properties for them, invest on their behalf, so they can watch and see how this works. And we're doing that. We're taking a very select few every month. If you're interested in that program, we can talk about that later. Okay, so the next step is location of the property you're buying. Okay, location is very important in real estate. The better the location, the better return you get. Obviously, the better the location, the more expensive the property is when you're buying it. You got to bear that in mind. But the good side of that is that because it's a high demand location, you get more money for rent if you decide to rent it out, whether it's short term or long term. But also when you plan on selling the property, you get more money for it. So it all kind of works out that way. Better location, higher price, higher rental income, higher resale value. Okay. So Toronto is a good location. Downtown core is, in Toronto is. Now I'm starting to see places like Mississauga, obviously. Milton is also a booming area right now. Milton, Oakville is hot. Some pockets of Burlington and Brampton also are really good areas to invest. Now the next step is timing. Timing is everything, they say, right? Okay. So when you're investing in real estate, you have to go in at the right time. And that's why most of my clients invest in pre-construction. We do have VIP access to those projects. We go in early. When a builder is trying to build a project, they let us know. They invite us in, they give us all the goods and say, hey, you're the first to see this. This is the best price we have to offer. Bring your clients in. And that's timing. So we go in and we're getting these properties at a discount. Now, once we get the properties for our clients, the builder then would launch it to the general public. When they launch it to the public, it goes up by sometimes over 15, 20% in price. So timing is very important. Okay. Now let's go to the return on investment. As somebody was asking this question the other day, what is the standard rate of return for real estate investment? My answer to that is that it all depends. There's so many factors involved. Obviously, location is one of them. The timing is also there. But average, rate of return in real estate, anything above 15% per year is actually, for rental properties, a very good return on investment. But typically, is a good one is between 10 and 12% or more. Okay, so if you're making between 10 and 12% return on your investment annually, that's a good ROI. Anything over that is even better, right? So we teach our clients these things: where to go, how to go, when to go, in order to achieve the maximum ROI possible. We haven't actually failed to reach that goal. Now, for residential properties and commercial properties in terms of ROI, residential properties, again, 10.6%, going back to what I said before, between 10 and 12%. Commercial investments, ROI is typically 9.5%. And if you want to invest in REIT, which is a real estate investment trust, the one I mentioned before that doesn't involve any physical property, those are typically around 11.8% ROI. That's where you want to be at. But like I said, I know a lot of people want to be able to feel and touch their property versus just investing in virtual properties. Any questions? Sam, I cannot hear you actually. Yeah, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Good question. When it comes to, I do have a list of condos and properties that need some TLC, but mind you, there are not many of those around. What happens is that if they ever come up, most realtors will snatch them up and fix them up themselves and sell. Well, yes, I do have a list, but the list is there's not many. I was talking to a young man that came to my office last week. He wanted to buy some fixer-uppers, and I told him specifically where to find those. We have a list, places like Hamilton, places like Clarington, which is in Durham region, Ajax. There are some properties out there that you can buy up and fix up and sell. But like I said, there are not too many, especially in Canada. In the US, yes, there are a million of them, but here there are few. Also, another question came in regarding foreclosure. Foreclosure is very rare these days. Banks have become very creative on solving the problem before it gets to the point where the house needs to be replaced, repossessed. So when they come up, of course, we'll be first to have them. But yeah, Any other questions? Right. So the mentorship program is free. It doesn't cost you a penny. I myself started off with nothing, but through mentorship program, through someone who wasn't a real estate agent or anything, he's just an investor, he's an older guy. He mentored me into get my first property, and I figured I owe this to other people who are starting out, and it's actually a lot better that I'm a realtor. I have the experience. I deal with these every day. I can actually I do it for free. How it works is that we sit with you and we find out exactly what you want, what you're looking for, what your capabilities are in terms of resources, your timeline, the type of investment you're looking for, short term, long term, and then we can create a plan for you, give you assignments to complete every month, monitor your progress, and when you're ready to take the plunge, we'll take you out there and show you properties that are available, properties that meet your criteria. And if you like the property, then we'll make an offer on your behalf. Put conditions on inspection, finance, and do all that stuff for you. If everything goes well, we close and we'll give you a key to the house. If you decide on renting it out, we find a tenant for you. You just got to sit back and collect your rent on a monthly basis. Yeah, and when it's time to buy the next one, we'll be there for you as well. Good question. So making offers is something that we actually do for you. Before we make an offer on a property, obviously we have to look at the comps, properties that have sold on that in that neighborhood that are similar to the one we're making an offer on. We look at comps that sold in the last 3 to 6 months and compare it to see whether the price they're asking for is a little too high or too low. And then based on that, we can come up with the right amount to offer at first. Yeah, so the process is what we do with you, together with you. We tell you this is what we think the house is worth. This is what that house next door sold a couple of months ago. And this is what we think they will be expecting as a final offer. And then together we'll come up with the right number. And one thing we're trying not to do is get overexcited. Sometimes people like a house a little too much and they want to put in the maximum amount of price on it. No, we don't advise our clients to do that. The house is a house, right? Put your emotions somewhere else. Think about your money. But at the same time, we try to balance things out. Yeah. Okay. Right. So, cap rate, a question came in regarding return on investment on commercial properties for those who are interested in commercial. We use what we call cap rate, capitalization rate. What it is the ratio between the net income of the property and the ongoing price and its original price or capital cost. So let's put it this way. So you buy a house for $1 million, an investment property. You have tenants in that property. You're collecting rent, $4,000 a month. But you have costs. You have costs like property taxes you got to pay on that property. You have maintenance costs on the property. Let's assume that the tenant is not paying utilities. You're paying the utilities. Those are your expenses, right? So when you look at the income you're receiving from that property, and then deduct all these expenses, right? Then you divide that by the current market value of the property. That's the capitalization rate. So for a typical property that is an investment, a good cap rate is anywhere between 4 and 10%. Okay, so we're talking commercial now. Again, I know this presentation is short, it's only 1 hour, We're not going to cover everything in details today, but I'll be more than glad to come back again and elaborate on every one of these topics, go deeper into it to give you more information, or if you prefer to be part of the mentorship program we have, we teach in depth. We go very deep into every one of these situations. I do have some questions that was presented to me by you guys yesterday. Okay, there are 24 questions. If we have time, we can go through all of them if I haven't already covered some. But I'm going to pick a few from here. Sam, do you have any of those questions in front of you? Okay, so I will go through them one by one, okay? One of the questions is, how risky is real estate investing? How risky is it? Well, real estate investment is risky just like any other investment. Some of the risks are basically if you have a property that you rented out to tenants and the tenants are not paying rent on time, that means you're not paying your mortgage on time. That's a risk. You might stand a chance that the bank will take the house back, or in a better situation, they might charge you penalties for being too late. Another risk is if you have tenants who are not maintaining that property the way they should, and the property can actually be worn down quickly, more quickly than it should. Also, another risk is refinance risk. It may be time to refinance that property and the bank would not refinance it because of different factors. Maybe because your income has dropped dramatically. The value of that property to them is not what they anticipated it should be. The neighborhood has become bad. These are risks involved. A lot of folks. Mhm. That I can hear myself echoing. Can you fix that? Okay, it's good now. Okay. So those are risks involved, but just like any other investment, you have to be prepared for these things. And that's the reason why we take care of the ones that we believe we can take care of. Things like finding the right tenants, qualifying them, make sure they're qualified enough, they have good income, they have no credit, they have good we do background checks on them. The chances of them being late for rent is very slim. And also the chances of them damaging your home is very slim. Okay, so another question I got is, what steps do I need to take to improve my credit score to get better mortgage loan? I wrote a book a couple of years ago called 9 Steps You Can Take to Increase Your Credit Score Up to 200 Points in 90 Days or Less. I know it's a long caption, but that's the name of the book. I can obviously give the books to you guys, whoever is part of the mentorship program. There are a few things you need to do to keep your credit in shape. Obviously, one of them is to pay your bills on time. Very, very important. Another is try not to pay just a minimum payment. If you can afford to pay off the balance every month, that's a perfect scenario. Thirdly, do not apply for credit too often, because every time you apply for new credit and there's a credit check done, your score drops, okay? But the most important one is the balance on the account. So always try to keep the balance under 50%. So let's say you have a credit card that is $5,000. Every billing cycle, try to keep it under $2,500. I'm saying what you've used out of it. The balance cannot be less than $2,500. Anytime your balance is over a certain amount, your credit score drops dramatically. Okay. Fourthly, the older credit cards you have, the older the better. So let's say you had a credit card 10 years ago and you still have it. Don't cancel it because you have new credit cards, because those older ones are the ones that make you look better, right? So if you want to cancel some credit card, start with the newer ones, not the older ones. Another thing is try to increase your credit limit. I know this might sound a little silly, but that's the way it is. The higher credit limit you have, the better the balance looks. And these are the fundamentals. But I believe we can, some of the time, maybe dive into more details on how to improve your credit score um, tremendously in a very short period of time. Do not co-sign for somebody. I keep saying this to my clients. Unless it's your mother, I would not co-sign for anybody. Okay, when you co-sign for someone for a car, a couch, a rental, chances are that they're going to default. And when they default, it comes back to bite you in the butt. You don't want that. So it might sound a little cruel, but don't co-sign for people unless you're certain they're gonna pay the bills on time. Okay. Another question I received was, can I use line of credit to invest in real estate? The answer to that is no, especially if it's your first time, your first home. You can use equity line of credit. If you already own a property and you have enough equity there, you can use equity on that house to put a down payment in a second house. But as a first time buyer, no, the bank wants to see that the down payment you have is your own money or a gifted money, but not a debt, not a loan. Okay? Right. So the fourth question is, how can we find property that is under market value? That's a good one. Properties that are listed under market value are properties that need work, fixer-uppers, and those are not too many. But like I said before, there are some pockets you can find them. Some areas in Hamilton, some areas in Clarington, which is in Durham region, Ajax. We have access to those. Okay. The next question is, how viable is house flipping in wholesale real estate market in Ontario? Going back to this, I think I've already answered this question. It's not very viable. I'll be very frank with you, except in certain areas, because a typical home in the city is in good shape. I mean, there's not really much to do to flip. You can buy a property in places like Hamilton, for example, that is run down and fix it up and make money there. But that's just in that area. I don't see much of those in the city as we speak. Okay. Another question is, any tips to help me save up for down payment for my first house? Good question. To save up for down payment is something that it has different ways of looking at it. It's not a one-off thing. You can obviously take another job, take a part-time job and save up all that money. You can sell something of value. I've had clients sell the expensive cars that they already paid off for down payment. You can, again, get a gift from a family member for down payment. But there's not really any special way of saying it other than that you have to save that money somehow. If you have expensive jewelries, you can sell them as well to come up with a down payment. But getting a second job is obviously, and cutting down on your expenses that are not necessary, is a way to save money for down payment. Okay. The ninth question is, what is the benefit of investing in a property that is still under construction? Good question. Pre-construction, I've already touched up on this. Pre-construction is the bread and butter of most people. So you buy at a discount from a builder. When you buy a property from a builder, you're already typically paying saving anywhere around 10 to 15%. And this is one of the reasons why, for example, if you're buying a phase one, let's say hypothetically you paid $300,000 for it. And then 6 or 7 months later, the builder launches phase two. And all of a sudden, phase two, the same size of the unit, is going up for like $450,000. So there you go. right there and then you've already built $150,000 equity within a space of 6 to 8 months, right? So what I recommend for anyone looking to invest in real estate to build capital quick is to invest in pre-construction, because you're guaranteed to double your deposit by the time it's time to take possession of the unit. So yeah, okay. Any other questions that can come directly from the group other than what I'm reading on paper here? I'm here. Okay. So can I ask you how many people are still on? Can you check? Okay. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the questions that I have here. Somebody was asking, what is the cost of a new build in Milton? Okay. It all depends. I believe the average new build townhouse now in Milton is anywhere about from $600,000. Now, a year ago, that same property would have been around 480, 500,000. So it just goes to show how quickly these values go up. Somebody asked the question, where can someone find properties for sale apart from MLS listings? Okay. You can find properties on realtor.ca. You can find properties on Kijiji. You can find properties on for sale by owner websites, fsbo.ca. But most importantly, we do the finding for our clients. So we find all the properties for you based on your requirement. Okay. There's another question here. How can we refinance a recently rehabilitated property? Just the same way you can refinance any other property, as long as you've done a good job at it. The bank might want to do some appraisal to make sure the property is worth what the mortgage you're asking for is. So it's pretty much the same as refinancing anything. Somebody was asking, how do I get into house flipping business? It's very straightforward. You have to have the capital, and then you can work with a realtor who has access to properties that need to be fixed up and flipped. It's that simple. Okay, it says, is it possible to earn an income from just home staging? Of course, home staging is a thriving business. I'll give you an example. A typical stager for, say, a condominium that is about 1,000 square feet will charge anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a month to stage that unit. So there you go. So if you have if you have good furniture to stage the properties, if you stage 3 to 4 properties a month, you're good. You're making good income doing it. Someone else was asking, how do we use $100K to buy up to 3 properties? Your first property you can buy with 5% down, but the second property you have to have 20% down. So do the math. If you have 100,000, it all depends on the price of the property. It might be a little stretch to do that. But again, like I said, if you're buying a second property, third property, fourth property, anytime you add into the first one, there's a minimum of 20% required per for the additional property you're buying. Okay. Another question: can we crowdfund to do real estate business? Of course, you can put money together as a team, as a group, as a family to buy real estate. What I do recommend for my clients is typically to create what do you call it? A cooperation. So you create a cooperation. All of you guys are all you have interest in that cooperation. Depending on the amount of everyone is investing, your percentage share, your share of that cooperation is based on the amount you put in. Yeah. Okay. So yes, you can crowdfund to do real estate transaction. Okay. Another question is talk about second time home buyer qualification with pre-construction and existing mortgage. Now, going back to this, if you already own a home, yes, you can take out equity on your home to buy pre-construction. Okay, 20%. So that's doable, 100%. Another question is, what are the available real estate investment options? There are commercial properties, like I already mentioned before, and residential properties. There's also REIT, I already talked about that, and syndicated mortgages. Okay, so that's about it. We do have a mentorship program. My office is in Mississauga. If you want to be part of that mentorship program, it's free of charge. We're more than glad to speak with you. We meet once a month. We have lunch at a nice restaurant, and we talk about the market, where it's going. We look at your situation. We work with you. We prep you, get you ready to make your first purchase. And hopefully you'll be happy with the whole process. And when you're ready for the next one, we'll be there for you. So we mentor you throughout the whole process and teach you how it works. My information, I believe, will be made available to you by Sam. You can call me anytime. You can text me. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I'll text you back anytime and answer any questions you may have. I would love to come back here at some point to talk about credit, go into details about credit, how to build a good credit history. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Uh, mhm.